In this video, we're going to be working on session 2 of acceptance to stimulus, again using the flag. So we start off with shortening up that lead rope, sending Oliver out onto the circle. So you can see that just after a small amount of acceptance work, he's already so much more accepting of it. So I started off just by popping it onto his hip. That looked fine, so I slid it down his hindquarter a wee way, and it caused a little bit of worry. You can see he's freezing a little bit today, whereas in our last session he was more towards flight. So you would have seen there that I just created a little bit of energy to get his feet moving, and as soon as they did, then I took the flag away. And again, giving him a bit of a break. Okay, and now popping him back out onto the circle again. Approaching with the flag. Oh, and he's got a little bit worried. It's okay, I just stay with him and take it away as soon as he's found some rhythm again. And when I took it away, you can see that he's kind of wanting to stop. And that's because we've been doing lots of stopping and rewarding him. So you can sort of build up to the point where you can say, actually, no, let's keep on moving after I take it off. You don't always have to stop. So it's building on from what we did in our previous session. So always going back to that starting point. And you can see as he goes around me there, I'm looking at the whole feel of him. And what I really like is that he's not mentally checking out to cope with it. He's still engaged with me. He's not shutting down mentally, which is fantastic. So just putting a little bit of bend through his body when he gets a bit worried like that and he loses rhythm. And as soon as he relaxes, releasing the pressure. There we go. It's starting to look a bit better now. Still losing some rhythm, but that's okay. This is all so normal in the early stages of our training. And you can see why it's so important that we work with our horses to set them up with the tools to be successful when there's stimulus that could potentially worry them. So that they don't have to feel fearful about it. And then we go having another break, letting him relax down, and starting back up again. So you might find in these early stages that you think that you've got one part happening pretty good, and then it comes a little bit unstuck again. Don't get caught up in just because you were at this one spot that your earlier foundational training or something that you've done previously isn't quite as good anymore. Don't get stuck on where you are right now, and be okay with going back and working on that smaller step to get that part happening good before you progress on. So now I've come up onto the inside of his leg. So this can be quite worrying for a lot of us, but this in itself is a fantastic tool to teach your horse not to panic if they ever get any rope or fence stuck around their legs. They'll know to just stay relaxed. So this is a little bit of a different take on teaching them to stand still. Yes, eventually we'll be able to stand still when they have it on their legs, and we could probably even do that right now, but I run the risk of teaching my horse to shut down to that stimulus rather than be accepting of it. So by seeing that he can move without any loss of rhythm or relaxation tells me that he would be truly accepting of it. So just sticking into that inside of the hock, and then he relaxes a little, and I drop it away. Lovely. Okay, so again lifting up, down to that hind quarter and to the inside of the hock. And so now that looked pretty good. So I just progressed on a little bit up his leg. So you're tracing the outline of the horse. Down the outside, up onto the inside, up a little bit higher. So now I'm sort of up more in his flank area. Good, and taking it away. So you can see it doesn't have to be 100% perfect either for me to move on to the next spot, because I know that with the repetition of it and carrying on working on this, then we are going to have it all looking beautiful, relaxed, rhythmical by the end of it. Lovely. Up into that flank. And what has been fantastic is since we started to add this aspect into our training of acceptance work while the horse is moving, we haven't had a single horse buck when we've put a saddle on. And my thoughts around that are because previously when we did desensitizing, it was all about getting them to stop their feet and to kind of cope with stimulus. But now instead, we're saying, hey, look, you can move your feet, you can process this. If you feel like you need to run, then you can do that. But I'm going to help you find relaxation by putting some bend through your body, instead of kind of trapping their emotions about it by making them stand still and shutting them down to it. So as a result, we've seen that when we've put a saddle on and the girth done up for the first time, then the horse already knows how to move through things without having to get to that point of fear and it coming out and bucking or shutting down or taking flight. And back to some chill time. And you'll probably notice that Oliver's getting more and more confident about relaxing and letting down out away from me now as well. He doesn't have to be right in on top of me every time. So it's quite neat to, again, like we were talking about in the beginning, just observe those things, what is going on for them. There we go. Out around me, gather up my lead rope again, up to the hip. Oh, the wind kind of flicked the flag forward there, but that's okay. We'll just stay with him, wait for him to relax, and then leave him alone. Good, that's already looking better. So at the beginning, we want to start off really gentle and not being too big in the energy of the stimulus. So that's why we said for some horses, even just the flag itself might be too much. So you might just want to start off with your hand or even just the stick without any flag on it, and then be able to build up the pressure. So the same when you've got the flag, we're just kind of gentle in how we're applying it. But one day we'll be able to kind of flap it around and be a little bit more careless with how we do it as well. So getting up to that shoulder. So you can see how he carries quite a bit of tension in those shoulders, and he gets really tight and quite short in his movement, which of course we see in a lot of ridden horses as well that aren't accepting of the stimulus, e.g. the saddle or the rider. And so of course over time they kind of shut down to it, but we can still see it in the shortened movement. Of course that would be presuming that all the gear is fitting as well. And poor Oliver, it's a bit of a windy day, so it doesn't really make it too easy on him. Okay, so now we're getting further up his neck. And what I decided to do here was kind of bring him forward towards me, because he was having a hard time in circling with it on his neck. We can just kind of adapt a little bit, apply the same principles. So I'm going to get those feet moving forward, slide that up his neck. So I start off in the circle, and then when he gets stuck and shuts down, I just tip him off balance a little bit to to get those feet moving, and then I can drop the flag away. So it's all about just finding a way to get those feet moving in the most gentle way possible. Of course, eventually he'll be able to just carry on around me in a circle while I put the flag all over his body. And you might find that you don't need to do what I'm doing with Oliver here. You might find that you can just slide it up their neck and they're not too worried about it at all. But I know that with Oliver, he's got some issues going on in his pole area, so he's a little bit more defensive around this half of his body, so of course we see it amplified. There we go. So you can see he's getting a lot more free in those shoulders, quicker. So now you should be starting to pick up on the principles of the exercise, which are rhythm, relaxation, focus, and acceptance. And sometimes you might find that if you're working with an older horse that has learnt to tune out, then having them focused on you might be a little bit harder. They might get the physical part right, and they might start to accept the flag on them, and their rhythm is pretty steady and they don't change at all. But you might find that they are kind of checking out a little bit. Maybe they're looking to the outside. So that's where you will then branch out into kind of boiling the pot a little bit. Can I have the flag all over their body while I put some bend through the body and see what comes up? Can I put the flag all over their body while we ask for trot and see what comes up? And oftentimes when you go through that process of boiling the pot a little bit, you'll find that sometimes things will come out, and then you'll be able to get through to having them not only physically accepting, but also mentally present. There we go, that's starting to look so much better. Fantastic. So of course we're going to repeat this exact same stuff on both sides of the horse to make sure that we have everything in there, because sometimes you'll find that they'll be great on one side and terrible on the other side. So we need to make sure that they're even on both sides of their body. Beautiful session.